The charges in this story are disturbing, and I just want to say that before we get into it. Reality TV personality Sidney Starr is behind bars in Fulton County, facing severe felony charges involving a minor. Hapeville police arrested the model and television personality, whose legal name is Sydney Favors, on Sunday at the Embassy Suites on International Boulevard.
Next thing you know, 2 years later, all of this false stuff comes out nobody knows nothing about. And that's literally how that went. It's nothing else to it. Which caused me to lose a record deal that I had been working on for years. I'm coming out to LA.
What do you mean you lost a record deal behind that? Just over
I was
a rumor?
I was in negotiations with Interscope about doing a deal. Man, I was flying out to California, getting on yachts, going on the water with these people, eating fruit, doing all type of stuff to secure this deal. They said that was so big on social media, they didn't want to go through with it.
Wow.
And I lost a record deal from a lie.
Girl, Sidney Starr is a perfect example of what can happen when an attention seeker goes too far. Sidney was reportedly arrested and jailed over an alleged incident involving a minor. Meanwhile, Chingy is sitting back, seemingly saying, "I told you so."
Individual eventually came out, said they lied. By then, the damage was done, because all the people who blew it up when the individual lied on me, that same energy wasn't there when the individual came out and said the truth. So damage was done.
The situation became even more serious because Sidney's actions were not simply about getting attention. According to the story being told, her attempt to gain publicity eventually caused major damage to Chingy's reputation when she claimed that he was secretly living as a gay man. That accusation followed him for years and created a great deal of unwanted attention. What made the situation even more troubling, according to Chingy, was the belief that Sidney had a history of making dramatic claims and creating controversy whenever she wanted attention. He has suggested that he has evidence showing this was not the first time she had caused problems for someone else. Sidney Starr had already become a controversial figure after gaining attention as a transgender media personality in the early 2010s. Over the years, she built a reputation for being outspoken and frequently finding herself involved in public drama. However, the situation described here was far more serious than the usual celebrity controversy. While she was in Atlanta preparing to film content connected to the Zeus network, Sidney was arrested following an allegation involving a teenager. According to reports about the case, the young person had traveled to Georgia to attend a football event. Sidney allegedly approached him at a hotel and told him that she thought he was attractive. She then reportedly asked him to touch his phone against hers so they could exchange contact information. At that point, the teenager allegedly did not know who Sidney was or have any understanding of her public profile. The situation reportedly became more serious after Sidney allegedly contacted him and asked him to meet her in her hotel room. The young person went to the hotel because he wanted to find out what she wanted. According to the allegations, Sidney later saw him in the hallway and used her hotel room key to bring him upstairs. The teenager reportedly said that he did not have a room key of his own and felt that he had no easy way to leave. Sidney allegedly told him that she would take him back downstairs and claimed that she only wanted to show him something. According to the report, however, the situation quickly became frightening for the teenager. When he tried to leave, Sidney allegedly grabbed his foot and offered him money in exchange for keeping quiet about what had happened. Fortunately, the teenager was reportedly able to get away and immediately contacted a nearby family member. Police were then called, and Sidney was arrested. After her arrest, Sidney reportedly acknowledged that the encounter had happened but claimed that the teenager had consented. She also allegedly told authorities that she did not realize he was underage and believed she was dealing with an adult. That explanation became another major point of controversy because the law does not treat a minor's consent in the same way as an adult's consent. The allegations were therefore much more serious than a simple misunderstanding. Critics argued that Sidney's explanation did not erase the responsibility involved. They also questioned how she could have believed the teenager was an adult. The entire situation raised serious concerns about judgment, boundaries, and the consequences of seeking attention without considering the potential harm to others. According to the narrative, Sidney's pattern of controversy continued to follow her, and the incident became another example used by her critics to argue that her actions could have serious consequences. What may have started as an attempt to gain attention ultimately turned into a situation involving police, accusations, and intense public scrutiny.
And I'm glad they snatched that wig from you, bitch, because let us see you in your full character, baby, in your full essence, because you a monster. If these allegations are true, you're a fucking monster.
A lot of people have been waiting to see Sidney face the consequences of her actions, and Chingy does not seem willing to let the situation be treated like some small, one-time mistake. Sidney asked the court to release her on bond, arguing that she was not a flight risk and did not pose a danger to the community. She also pointed out that she had no previous criminal record, worked as a media personality, and would be available whenever she was required to return for future court proceedings. However, the judge denied her request for bond. From Chingy's point of view, that decision made sense. He appeared to believe that Sidney should remain behind bars because, in his opinion, the way she described herself as harmless showed very little remorse for the alleged actions and the pain they may have caused other people. He also seemed to feel that having no criminal history on paper does not automatically mean someone has never behaved badly or caused problems in the past. Chingy even shared a statement from someone who claimed that Sidney had allegedly been involved in similar behavior for years. The person suggested that it was not a new situation and that Sidney had simply managed to avoid serious consequences until now. That claim added even more fuel to the discussion surrounding her legal troubles. Some people have also claimed that certain incidents involving Sidney were captured on video. The conversation has become especially heated because many people are afraid to speak openly about controversial situations. There is often pressure to remain silent because people do not want to be accused of being a snitch. But regardless of labels, the safety of minors should always be taken seriously. Allegations involving adults and children are extremely serious and should never be dismissed or treated as entertainment. If someone believes all of this is simply Chingy attacking Sidney out of personal hatred, the history between Sidney and other celebrities may provide more context. Sidney has been involved in several public controversies over the years, especially after interactions with male entertainers were discussed online. One example involved rapper Swae Lee. Sidney reportedly shared or appeared in a photo with him in a way that led people to believe there might have been something romantic between them. The picture quickly attracted attention from gossip blogs, and rumors began spreading. Swae Lee then publicly pushed back against the idea that anything romantic had happened. He explained that he had only stopped to take a picture with a fan and warned people not to misunderstand the situation. The response was blunt, and it appeared to shut down the rumors almost immediately. Some people believed Sidney had been responsible for getting the photo into the gossip world, although that was never something that could simply be treated as proven fact. Her friend Shauna Brooks also became involved in the conversation and offered her own version of what had happened when Sidney and Swae Lee met. After that controversy faded, Sidney was once again connected to another celebrity-related story. This time, rapper Designer became part of the conversation. A video showing Sidney dancing closely with him at a club spread across social media and quickly attracted attention. As people began discussing the footage, speculation grew about what the interaction actually meant. Designer responded publicly before boarding a flight, saying that he did not know Sidney and did not want people to assume there was a personal relationship between them. His comments added another layer to the controversy and once again placed Sidney at the center of online discussion. Over the years, situations like these have helped create a complicated public image around Sidney. Whether every accusation or rumor is accurate is another question entirely, but there is no denying that her name has repeatedly appeared in celebrity gossip and social media controversies. Now, with her current legal situation receiving attention, people are looking back at those older incidents and asking whether this is simply another controversy or something much more serious. For Chingy and those criticizing Sidney, the latest developments represent a moment when she may finally have to face consequences instead of simply moving on to the next headline.
Alright, man, they trying to make a joke of me, you know what I'm saying, put these videos up. Yeah, I didn't even know that was a fucking dude, man. We was at a party, man. Nigga came up to me, I'm a celebrity, man. Get your clout, man. Get your clout off that shit, man.
Fans gave the designer some grace because, by this point, Sidney had been in the public eye long enough for people to recognize a pattern in how she attracted attention. Whenever she felt that people were no longer talking about her, she seemed to find a way to connect herself to a celebrity who already had a strong reputation or a large following. The idea was simple: create a moment that people would notice, let the blogs pick it up, and suddenly her name would be back in the conversation. According to this account, she understood that being seen with someone famous could create rumors, even if those rumors were unfair to the other person. That is what happened with Chingy. At the time, he was building a promising career and receiving plenty of attention for his music. Around 2010, he was still known for songs such as Right There and Holiday Inn, and he had worked hard to establish himself in hip-hop. He had momentum, fans, and industry support. Then, according to the story, one set of photographs changed the public conversation around him almost overnight. Chingy reportedly woke up one morning to discover that the internet was buzzing about pictures Sidney had posted of the two of them. The images themselves were innocent, but Sidney presented them in a way that made people believe they were romantically involved. Blogs and gossip sites quickly picked up the story, and the rumors began spreading far beyond the original post. The situation became especially serious because of the attitudes surrounding hip-hop at the time. During that era, there was a strong stigma against male rappers being perceived as gay or as having relationships with transgender women. Many artists worried that even being connected to such rumors could damage their credibility, public image, and ability to work in the industry. Hip-hop culture was often unforgiving toward anyone who did not fit the traditional image expected of a male rapper. Wendy Williams had also spoken publicly about how difficult it could be to report on rumors involving rappers and their sexuality. She claimed that her aggressive coverage of such stories had caused major problems in her career. Because of that environment, even an unproven rumor could become a serious issue for an artist. Chingy strongly denied that he and Sidney were dating. He reportedly insisted that he barely knew her and that she was simply a fan who had asked to take a photograph with him. From his perspective, the situation had been completely misunderstood. However, the denial did not stop the story from spreading. In fact, the gossip appeared to become even bigger as blogs, social media users, and other outlets continued discussing the alleged relationship. The internet quickly turned the situation into a source of jokes and memes. What may have started as one photograph became a much larger controversy, and Chingy's reputation suffered as a result. The story claims that he eventually lost important business opportunities, including a record deal and a distribution arrangement. Even people who had once supported him reportedly began distancing themselves because they were afraid that being associated with the controversy could hurt their own careers. Meanwhile, Sidney allegedly continued standing by the story instead of immediately correcting the rumors. Chingy reportedly asked her to clarify the situation, but she did not take back her claims at the time. As the controversy continued, the damage to his career became increasingly difficult to reverse. Then, about 2 years later, the story took another turn. Sidney reportedly admitted that the relationship had never happened. She explained that the photograph was innocent and that she and Chingy did not actually know each other. According to her explanation, she was young at the time and wanted more attention for herself. Her friends had encouraged her to post the pictures because they believed doing so would create publicity and help people learn her name. She followed their advice, and it worked in one sense. People certainly began talking about her. However, the attention came with a major cost for Chingy. What may have seemed like a harmless attempt to become more famous ended up creating a controversy that allegedly affected his reputation and career for years.
Somebody took a picture of me
being nice to a fan who came up and was excited to meet me and saying how much of a fan they was and just wanted a picture because they love my music and stuff. And I took the picture. And they based a 2-year relationship lying off of that.
You destroyed his life.
No,
For fun.
Adam, no,
Yeah,
I
you did.
didn't. I'm gonna be real. I was young. I was 19. I was a backup dancer. I was working for a show that was with Shauna the rapper. Chingy opened up for one of the shows. I always had a big crush on Chingy, so I wanted to get a picture. He was very welcoming. People were in my ear saying, Sid, you gotta do something with this because you're a trans woman. They're not gonna pay no attention to you. This was, mind you, 2010. Trans women were not being looked at for anything.
I was finna stop taking pictures with homosexual individuals. And nothing against them, but now I thought like, that's what they gonna do. Didn't want to be compromised at all.
No one was talking about Chingy at that time. I actually made the world start talking about him again. But I became a warm-hearted, good person in my soul. I apologize.
It took Chingy years to rebuild his credibility and regain the trust of his fans. During that long period, the music industry continued moving forward, and many new rappers came onto the scene. As a result, Chingy was pushed further into the background and, for a while, it seemed like people had almost forgotten about him. It is difficult not to wonder how different his career could have been if that controversy had never happened and his momentum had not been interrupted. Since then, Sidney Starr has continued to build a career as a media personality and has remained involved in the entertainment world. However, critics argue that her past behavior created a pattern where controversy brought her more attention instead of serious consequences. From that perspective, she may have felt that she could continue getting involved in dramatic situations without having to deal with the full results of her actions. The situation being discussed now, however, is far more serious because an underage person is allegedly involved. The accusations described in this discussion are extremely serious, and any legal consequences would depend entirely on the evidence, the investigation, and the decisions made by the courts. It would be irresponsible to assume that someone will automatically be denied bail, convicted, or receive a particular prison sentence. Those matters are determined through the legal process, and allegations should not be treated as proven facts. Online reactions have nevertheless been intense. Some people are expressing anger and demanding consequences, while others are sharing stories about Sidney's alleged behavior in the past. One person claimed that they had once been out partying with her and saw her approach and grab random men on the street. They described the experience as frightening and said it was the last time they spent time with her. These personal stories are difficult to verify, but they show how quickly old allegations can resurface when a public figure becomes involved in a new controversy. Social media users are now debating whether Sidney should face consequences for the accusations being discussed and what those consequences should look like. Ultimately, the truth will need to be determined by credible evidence and the proper legal process rather than internet speculation. What do you think about the controversy surrounding Sidney Starr and the reactions to it? Share your thoughts in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe for more updates.